I am Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. She is the author of two books, and of course, this coming poetry book, this coming April. Please do give a big hand to Miss Stephanie Rowe.
Hello, Daniel.
Yes, it's nice to see you in a video podcast.
It is.
Last time we talked, we are do only audio, and you are in Peru. So, how's your adventure?
Yeah, our adventure was amazing. We had such a wonderful time. We went to Machu Picchu, which was just mind-blowingly incredible, and we went to Sacred Valley, and it was just Peru is an incredible country. But yeah, we ended our trip in November last year because our car got driven off of our tour bus car got driven off of a cliff in the Amazon, and so we had to come home. So, but we're all good. We're alive and we're healthy. It was a very big adventure, which I will be writing about in my next book.
Oh, yes, looking forward to that, Miss Steph. So, before we go on, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I'm Stephanie Rowe, who is also known as Mrs. Rowe. I'm from Australia and I currently live in Tasmania, Hobart, but I was born in Brisbane, Queensland, which is north of the country. I am a self-published author of Fiercely Me, which is my book, was released in February this year and is selling very well, and I'm very happy. And all the reviews that have been coming in have been absolutely touching. Like, my heart is just so overwhelmingly appreciative that everybody is seeing the story that I've written. And I'm also the instigator and coordinator and head collaborator of a poetry book called The World in Our Words, and that includes 24 poets, which we're going to get into later in this. But yeah, so I also write poetry as well, which is absolutely one of my favorite things to do. So
Congratulations for the success of your book. Yoo-hoo! Let's celebrate champagne.
I know. Oh, honey, I
So,
cannot wait for the champagne.
yes. So, Miss Staff, let's do the recap.
Yeah.
How did you craft it? Fiercely Me.
Yeah, Fiercely Me. So Fiercely Me was written because I have always had a goal. So I've always had a goal to write my memoir and my autobiography. And so I'd always written over my lifespan. Like, it's just something that I've always done. It was something that I connected to as the written word. And so even though I left high school and wasn't able to spell, and my ability to actually educate myself, well, when I left high school, I wasn't educated, and I had to then go and educate myself and learn how to spell and write and learn grammar and punctuation, which was something that I didn't learn at high school. So the fact that I now have a published book and have learned and self-taught is a huge thing. But and it's also like, I'm so proud of this. Like, from a person that left high school that wasn't able to spell to being a self-published author of her own memoir. Like, that's huge. So and yeah, so I'd always had a fascination with words and how you can just, describe the world that you see through words. So I'd always written, and I had a lot of writing when I'd made the commitment to myself that I wanted to complete my goal, my lifetime goal. But then I realized, like, I'd kind of brought things in and taken it back out again. I wrote from my perspective now, and so honestly, the process of writing Fiercely Me has been a huge one, because there is, like, not only was I trying to bring everything in, I realized that I had to be really critical, and I had to go, this is not what's needed in the story right now. So then I had to take it back out, because, everybody's life is huge. We all have a really huge experience of life. And so we can't necessarily put all of it into a book. And so I really had to be critical on what I wanted to put in there. And so once I got to that place and I was like, okay, so I'm taking this out, I'm putting this back in, I'm gonna focus on these areas and write these parts of my life. I did that. And so that kind of finished up in maybe March last year. So 12 months ago now. And I had an editor and she fell through. And then I got really sad and depressed because I was like, I've done this book and now I don't have an editor. And essentially what I realized was that I wasn't actually that wasn't the book that was supposed to be finished. And so I spent another solid, and I mean solid, 3 months. So from the start, I started it in like August of 2021. I finished it in February, March of 2022. And then God, no, what are we in 2024? So no, 2023. So I finished it 12 months ago in 2023 in March. And then I had to spend another 3 months of last year in the middle of the year working out and revisiting the writing because it wasn't very good. And so I had to be critical, and people that had been reading it was like, no, you can do better than this, Stephanie. And I was like, yeah, I can do better than this. And
Yes,
so
you are. You did.
I was like, I have to do better because I wouldn't have been happy with what I'd written the first draft down. So even though there was a lot of to and froing internally in writing the first draft, it was like it wasn't ready, and so I had to be really brutally honest with myself. I had to go, you know what, it's time now to dig deeper and to be really honest, because I'd also had an element where I hadn't written authentically and transparently. I had to honestly go, Steph, this isn't your true story. This isn't what's happened to you. You need to look inside to your little girl and your teenage girl and your 20-year-old girl, and you need to validate their experience, and you need to validate and have enough respect for yourself to be able to go, this is my story, and this is actually the story that happened to me through my experience, through my eyes, through my body. And I had to be really strong with myself and understand that I would have fallout, that people wouldn't, certain people in the family wouldn't like it. And that would be on them and not on me. And so I wrote it in that fashion. I had to rewrite the book, and I rewrote it in the most authentic, transparent way from me. And that kind of came out to, probably August last year. And then the editing started.
Very well said, Mrs. Staff. So, what are your struggles in writing Fiercely Me?
So the struggles that I had with writing Fiercely Me, there was many. There was so many.
A lot.
Oh my god! I think like writing and self-publishing a book is a very, very difficult thing, and I don't think that anyone that hasn't self-published would understand until you go through it. Like, there's not like everyone's like, oh, like it's really difficult, blah 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 blah, and you're like, oh, that's okay, I'm determined and I can do it, which is exactly what I did, right? I was determined and I did it, but I was also not. I just had no idea. So first off, editing. The editing process is really, really hard. It's so difficult to find a really good editor. A lot of editors say that they are really amazing, that they can do all of this stuff, and then you pay money and a down payment, and then you realize that they don't, or they don't prioritize the book, or they just don't have the skill sets. And it's disappointing. Honestly, it's really disappointing because you waste a lot of time trying to find an editor to edit a book that you've poured your heart into, and because it's not theirs, right? Because it's not their book, they're an editor, that's their job. They don't have as much emotional connection to it, so it's hard. That's hard. It's really hard. So it took me about 4 or 5 rounds before I found an editor. And I had to just keep going, and it was one of the hardest things to do that. But I found an amazing editor in the end. But I think as a writer, it does, and I don't think it matters what genre it is. as a writer, you have to be really, really firm on what you want the outcome to be. So what kind of book do you want at the end? Because when you go into the editing process, you need to have that at the forefront of your mind. So that was really difficult to that process, and it's very time encompassing. So it's like having to go through and edit an entire book, because it ended up being I think nearly 90,000 words when I'd actually finished it. And to go through and edit that big book is quite it takes a lot longer than I thought it would. And then there is the whole printing, the typesetting, other people having opinions on how they want your book to look. And again, when you have that kind of vision of what you want your book to look like at the end, all of these kind of steps you need to be really, really sure of. You need, as an author, unfortunately, you need to know what you want your book to look like, how you want people to open it, how you want people to feel it. And I'll show you a great example of what I'm talking about. So see this here. This is the chapter headings, right? And there's a picture on every chapter heading. But I wanted the wording to go over the picture. Now, that apparently is not something that happens in the publishing industry. And for me to get these pictures, right, was such a huge thing. Like, I was just like, it took me a lot to get this over the line because it's not something that people do in the publishing industry. So I was like, I had to, have multiple meetings. I had to problem solve. I had to get into the technical element of it because they're like, this can't be done. And I'm like, how can this not be done? Like, surely there's a way to do this. Like, it's not that this is new in the sense of there's been pictures in books for a long time. It's just that where I'm positioning the book, the pictures in the book is different to normal. So, all of these things that I had to go through that I didn't have any idea that I would, would be an issue was, problems that came up through the process. And so because I had that vision of the book, I was always able to go back to what I wanted. And so, and that's really important, right? It was really, really important. So then once I got through the typesetting and because there's a difference between the paperback and the ebook, I had to kind of go through different processes. So the ebook, we haven't been able to get the photo on the chapter headings because it won't connect to the contents page because for some reason technology hasn't got to that point where you can click on the contents and then it'll take you to that chapter. So there's all of these things, and then you get to the printing stage, and then you go, this is going to be easy. All that needs to happen, right, is you just need to print the book, and then you just need to send the book, and like this has to be the easiest part, and it wasn't. and so I bought 3 lots of books because the first lot of books that I bought were in China, and I did like a test, and I looked at the books and I picked the best quality, la 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 la, and then they just said, oh, the it's not on the ship and it's not turning up and whatever, like they just washed their hands of it because they didn't really. It wasn't their book, and they didn't really care if I had books for my launch or not. And so then I printed it through Ingram Spark. And again, Ingram Spark don't really communicate that well. So they're like, they'll take your money and they'll take the order, but they don't really tell you what's happening. Like, when is it printed? When is it going to be delivered? It's all very vague and there's no kind of information. So because of that, what I had to actually do was find a local printer up in Queensland in Brisbane called Mackay Printing, who were wonderful. And the best quality print out of all 3 of them was the easiest to deal with, and they were honestly like just the quickest turnaround. And because they were local, I was able to go pick them up. So I have 3 different printing because I was very, very concerned that they weren't going to turn up in time, and they didn't. And so the last print run from the Mackay Printing in Brisbane was the one that I went to my launch with, and because they were the quickest turnaround, and they were the best quality, and they were able to do like everything that I needed. So that's just a few things that happened that were really difficult to go through within the printing process.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Stephanie Rowe Fiercely Me. The memoir is out, and please do support her. But before we go on, Miss Steph, can you unshare the screen? I want to share something.
Yes, of
Can you
course.
remove our yeah, please? I want to share something about my latest ranking on the Apple chart. So before we go on, Mrs. Steph, I want to shout out to the people listening according to my ranking tops in the last 30 days. Because in Bhutan, I got number 8 on the Apple chart, United Arab Emirates, Taiwan at 42, Jamaica at 56, Cameroon at 76, Thailand at 97, Cambodia at 140, Zambia at 147, and a lot more. Thank you so much for supporting this podcast, because this podcast is created to empower writers all over the world like Miss Stephanie Rowe. And today, Mrs. Steph, let's talk about the world's in our words. How
Yes.
did you crafted it?
And I would just like to say thank you so much, Daniel, for having me on again. And thank you to all of the listeners, because I know that this is something that's so important for authors and curators within the publishing world to have access to. And if you didn't do this, we wouldn't have a platform. And if you didn't have listeners, then we wouldn't have anybody listening to what projects we're doing. So it is extremely important to what you're doing, but also that listeners engage, because like we wouldn't have the reach that you have. It's such a global reach, which is so cool within itself. So thank you so much for having me on, and thank you to all the listeners. It's really, from the bottom of my heart, I'm so glad that I get to touch so many countries in the world.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Stephanie for this coming poetry book. So,
Yes.
Miss Steph, what inspired you to write poetry?
Yeah, so again, I've always written in my life, and I've always written poetry, and it's something that really, really touches my heart. Like, I think poetry is one of those things where you can, as a poet, you can draw another human being into your internal dialogue, and you can kind of almost create them visually seeing your world through your eyes, through words. And I love that. And so I had this great idea because obviously I was going through the process with Fiercely Me, but I was really wanting to publish my own poetry. And I had this crazy idea while I was a little bit tipsy. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to publish my book. But I said, I don't have enough. So I reached out to my closest confidants, my closest friends and relatives. And I said, hey, guys, I know you guys are incredible writers. Do you want to contribute your poetry to a collaboration poetry book that I'm going to put on? Because I think this would be a great opportunity for all of us to publish our work. And so they came back and they said, actually, yeah, this sounds really cool. And then I thought, why not I give back, because I'm a huge person on community and I'm a huge person on giving opportunities to others, right? So giving a platform to other people is a massive thing, and I've done it all through my life. So I put on a multi-arts festival when I was in 2010. So I could give artists platforms. So it's something that is honestly really close to my heart. So I put out a call out on Facebook, and I said, hey, guy, in different poetry groups and different writing groups. And I said, hey, I'm going to do this collaboration poetry book. Did you want, if you're interested, I'd love it if you came along and contributed. And so from that, I had about probably 40 poets that contacted me. And from that, I sent out contracts, and then the profits are going to be distributed across all of the poets. And essentially, from those 40 poets, 24 of them committed to contributing to the poetry book, which is absolutely incredible. And so it's been a great turnout. So for me, there is a lot going on in the world, and well, not just for me, for everybody, there's a lot going on in the world. People are dealing with increases in fuel, increases in groceries, increases in rent. The poverty line is definitely coming up, and it's coming up closer to, the middle class. And so everybody's feeling this pressure. We have wars going on. We have invasions going on. We have people dying. And so for me, as a human being, I'm just like, this is really horrible. People are really, really suffering out there, and it's not fair. And so for me, I really wanted the driving force of this book to be, how can I contribute to the world in a world which is, completely definitely in a destructive phase, and people are really feeling that pressure. How can I help, bring up the mood and bring people together? Because the other thing is that there's a huge segregation between countries, and they pit people against each other. And I hate that. I hate, like, we are all human. Every single person. I don't care what country you're in. I don't care what ethnicity you are. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care about the color of your skin. I don't care about any of that. What I care about is the fact that there's other human beings, and there's billions of us. And when we bring down those barriers, when we bring down those segregations, we have the opportunity to connect in a really beautiful way. So this book, for me, this poetry book is demonstrating that core belief that I have inside of me. And through that, I'm giving people a platform to share their poetry. So it has 24 poets from all over the world. So we have Canada, we have Canadian Filipinos, we have a blind man, we have people from Portugal, Mexico, America, Scotland, UK. We have people. We have non-binary people. There's pretty much every minority person, minority group we have in this book, and I love that. And the other thing that I really love about this book is that the poets are the highest quality. Like, the fact that we have such high quality poets, and like, it could have been a mixed bag, honestly. When people submitted their work, it could have been anything, but it's been such high quality. The poetry is all diverse. It's not just one. It's not just one style. So, which is something else that I really love. The fact that when the reader picks this book up, it's not just going to be one style of poetry. It's not, all of the limitations, all the restrictions have been completely removed. So you're going to go on a journey not only of the world, not only of different styles, of different languages, of different poets, but you're going to go on this whole, like, you're going to see the world through the poet all over the world, and I think that's beautiful. There's a beautiful unification of that. And so there is, there's also a poet from Israel as well, which is awesome. And so we have,
Yes.
I didn't want to limit it either in the sense of language. I really wanted to promote the fact that English is not just the only language in this world. And I feel like there is a level of ignorance when it comes to that. And I wanted to promote all languages. So we have, I think it's Hebrew, we have Spanish, we have Portuguese, we have Vietnamese, and we have English. Now, some of the poems have been converted into English, and others are just in their native tongue, which I think is absolutely incredible. And a lot of people gave me a lot of flack for this. They were like, why are you not doing everything in English? And I was just like, because English is not the only language that exists in this world. And I want to promote that. I think there's something beautiful about opening a poetry book and seeing a language that you don't know, that isn't familiar to you. It's not necessarily about you being able to read that language, but there's something beautiful in how the written word in different languages is printed on a page. And there's something really beautiful about that. Like, yeah, so that's how the book came around. And that's essentially, the highlight of what makes this book so special.
Definitely special because the world in our words is contributed by people all over the world. So, Mrs. Steph, before we go on, I'm inviting you to listen to my other podcast, Food 101, our fourth season, people. Fourth season with Chef Alessandro, one of the best executive chef in one of 5-star restaurant in downtown Toronto. Plus, do listen to our latest episode. We talk about food101.ca or www.food101.ca. This is the website or official website of Food 101, because if you will visit this website, you're gonna learn how to cook or to make your food delicious, wherever you are or whatever you are, a beginners or a professional cook. So please do visit
I wish I was over there. That
www.food.
looks amazing.
Yes, please do visit Mrs. Steph and start cooking. And plus one more, I'm promoting of course, Mrs. Steph, I'm promoting my audiobook, people. Audiobook. I have already 6 audiobook, and most of them are bestsellers. Book 101 Review, Volume 3. I did suggestions. Earth Fever, my climate change book. Please do support it. It's for our generation to generation to come. The Unraveling Climate and Our Race to Restore Balance. And of course, my book 101 review, volume 2 selected, is all a compilation of my book 101 review. And book 101 review, volume 1, highly recommended. Plus 2, my 2 self-help books. Threads of Existence, Weaving the Tapestry of Life, and Life is Too Short, a journey of discovery, fulfillment, and joy. So please do download and have a copy of my bestsellers audiobook. So, Miss Steph, let's promote
Yes.
our latest poetry book. How did you overcome writer's block when you're crafting a poem?
Yeah, so poetry is a very different form, honestly, when it comes to writer's block, because it's not necessarily about the story. It's about like how you demonstrate lines and capture people, and there's lots of different styles. So for me, I honestly just have like moments of um, huge inspiration, and it's like, oh my god, I have to like, words will just kind of drop in, and I'll have to write those words down. And so I when that happens, I always write it, right? And I'll leave it in my notes in my phone or in my notebook, and then I'll go back and I'll rework it. And so I've done that a few times now. And it can be hard because, like, when you first have that inspiration, you write it, you're like, this is amazing. And again, like my fiercely me, like, oh my God, this is amazing. I've done the best poem ever. And then you get there and you're like, oh my God, this needs work. And so you're like,
Oh
this
my god,
needs
he's
work.
working.
And so you have to kind of be really critical with yourself, and you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to go back and you have to revisit it. And so, it's interesting because, like, there is a part where I absolutely love poetry, but then I also get really scared whether or not it's a good poem or not. And yeah, it's hard. It's very, very, very hard, to be honest, because your poetry is not like really about chapters and things. It's about how you're going to demonstrate an impact. That's a big thing, like how you're going to impact the reader through your words. And so I'd like to share a poem with you if I could.
Oh
Um,
yes, please
yeah,
do.
if I could, that'd be awesome. And it is such a beautiful. It's called Delphi.
Mm.
And Delphi. So we went to Greece, and we were up in a place called Delphi, which is where they call it the center of the universe, right? They call it the center of the universe, and it was just it was such a spiritual place, like you could just feel the energy. So, and look, I want to use this one because this is one where I wrote it, and then I reread it, and I was like, this is terrible, and then I had to go back and rewrite it. And so you have to kind of be really critical, but you also have to kind of understand what message you want. So this is called Delphi. I close my eyes and I breathe in. A direct connection to the world we cannot see can be felt. Your presence still lingers in the air. You were here, as if the magic is falling all around us. The smell of pine laced with ancestors' souls. We are in the center of the universe, a witness to the creation of life. A light touches the world as if it was made only for my eyes. I feel the earth's heartbeat, the heat bubbles inside of me, the hard rock surface, an attempt of deterrent, a visual force for the mind. The water laps at the edges of the universe, all encompassing, attempting to cool our souls, while the heat still generates inside us. Turmoil between the worlds. The implosion of us can be seen from afar. As we try to destroy by collapsing, the center of the universe is straight down. You just need to look. I watch on as if the ending of the world would be different. The seasons come and go while life flashes. Life is passed on and continues the survival, unsure what the survival is for. So yeah, so that's
Wow.
called Delphi.
What?
And that was one which was really hard.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes, very, very, very beautiful and amazing poetry. And Miss Steph, what is the best highlight of the world in our words?
Yeah, so I think that the best highlight has been working with so many incredible poets. There is like just to create such a beautiful community where everyone's participating and they're wanting to engage and they're wanting to talk, and it's like this mini community. Has been such a wonderful experience. Like it's been also very, there's been moments of very of difference and having to be mature and having hard conversation, but there's also been many beautiful moments of interaction and sharing what's going on for us all over the world, and realizing that we're all human, and so I think that's been one of the most beautiful things. And then seeing everybody's beautiful poems, like, oh my god, like I just it has been so amazing to read so many amazing poems from so many amazing poets. Like, just, it's so cool. This project is honestly awesome. So that's and there's a couple of really cool highlights.
Yes, and congratulations for the new poetry book. So, Mrs. Steph, can you please invite our listeners to support your upcoming poetry book?
Yeah, I'd love to. So we have created a poetry page. So you can go the poetry page, The World in Our Words, on Facebook. You can go and follow me on Mrs. Rowe Author on Instagram and also Facebook. And I'm also on TikTok, which is Mrs. Rowe Author or Stephanie Rowe. But if you wanted to go and pre-order or buy a book, you can head to www.mrsrowe.org, which is the website which is currently being shared at the moment. And you head there, go to the store, you can pre-order the poetry book, or alternatively, you can buy my book, Fiercely Me.
Yes.
Yes, and then we've
Fiercely
also
Me.
got another website which you can head to, which is The World in Our Words. I think it's .com, which has, you can also pre-order through that. But that's specifically been set up just for poetry book.
Yes, people, let's support Mrs. Stephanie Rowe, because if you support her, more poetry or books to come.
100%.
What is your advice for those struggling writers out there?
I think having faith in your story and in yourself is a really huge thing. So you're going to have knockbacks. You're going to have people tell you that you can't do something, that it's too hard. No one's going to buy your book. You're going to have a lot of negativity. You are going to come up against a huge wave of negativity. And so when you do have that wave, having that self-assurance and that self-belief is a huge thing. And it's got me through many months of hardship, really, when it comes to writing and releasing your work. So I think the first thing is to just believe that you are worthy, that your story is worthy, that you deserve to actually share your story. No matter what anybody says and no matter what anybody thinks, you deserve to share what you have on the inside through word to the outside world. Just like this podcast, people deserve to share this. They deserve to have a connection with other human beings. And I do it through word, and you obviously do it through word, but you also do it through this podcast, right? And so it's a really beautiful form. So that's the first thing that I would say. The second thing is that build your community. Like, go and reach out to different Facebook groups, find your people, Have that solid friend or, cousin or auntie that believes in your work, and have them, because there's going to be moments where you're going to just be on the floor crying and you just need a friend to pick you up and be like, you're okay. You're going to get through this. I use a lot of resources through Facebook groups. And so, the Facebook groups for writers are really, really helpful. They are a great resource. They've been, like, a lot of authors have tried a lot of stuff, so they're willing to share and help other authors avoid the hardships. So I think that's also something that you can do. And I think also, like, writing every day. And I have this conversation with my husband, who is he writes scripts, and I said, Jace, it's not about the quality of the writing necessarily. It's about writing every day, or every second day, or having that schedule of writing. It's about writing anything. It can be absolutely terrible. It doesn't matter, because guess what can happen? You can go back and use one sentence out of that, page, or that a couple of paragraphs out of the few pages that you've written, and you build on that, right? And you go back when you're in the heightened state of expression and artistic expression, and you go back and you rework that and you re-edit that. And so you might need that kind of paragraph, and the rest of it's crap, but that 1 or 2 paragraphs is amazing. And you need that as, like, the foundation of the next chapter, or you need that to, to continue on the journey of your writing journey. And so it's not necessarily about writing amazing every single day. It just doesn't happen. But there are pearls of wisdom in every page that we do write. And so it's about understanding that concept, and not having really high expectations, going, I'm going to have a crappy day of writing, and that's okay. Sometimes it's just about expressing whatever you need to express on that day, and then coming back and working on that. And I see it as a foundation. It's like, you got to have a foundation to work upwards. And if you don't have anything, so if you don't write every day, or you don't write every second day, or you don't have a schedule of writing, then you're not going to have anything that you can possibly work with. And so that's, I think, the shift that I find with a lot of people in my life, is that, it's shifting from going, I need to write every day and it has to be amazing every single day, to going, no, it doesn't have to be amazing. Just write, and then you'll get your pearls of wisdom that you can then work on.
Very well said, Mrs. Steph. And stop procrastinating. Go, go, go. Who knows, you are the making, or the best in the making, like Miss Stephanie Rowe. So, Mrs. Steph, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for having me. It's so lovely to see you again, and so much love.
Yes, thank you so much. And Modicom people, see you soon.
Thanks, guys. Can't wait to hear from you all. It's going to be awesome to hear from everybody around the globe. This is an awesome, awesome podcast. Thank you, Book 101.
Yes. Thank you so much too. And according to my analytics, I got 145 countries listening to this podcast, Mrs. Staff. So we are empower writers. This podcast is empowering writers all over the world, and you are most welcome. Welcome to come back. Let's talk about books that you read, and in that way, we promote your 2 books.